If you are thinking of studying abroad, you must avoid these universities for fall 2026. Whether you're going to US, UK, Canada, does not matter. This information is important because there are consultants out there are counselors out there, and there are universities out there who are willing to compromise on your education, on your return on investment, on you getting a job, just for the sake of money. So let me talk to you about these universities. My name is Yash. I have 7 to 8 years of experience now in the study of our industry. I went to one of the topmost schools in this country, in the US right now. We're in Texas. This is home to more than 89,000 students, international students, every single year. Let me tell you, at least 50 to 60% of those students, they don't know what they're doing. Simply because they're being guided by the wrong kind of people, wrong kind of counselors. They don't want to watch videos. They don't want to educate themselves. They make these mistakes. Let's make sure that you do not make these mistakes. What kind of universities you have to avoid? Let's stop the fluff. I don't care. If you like the video, subscribe later on. All these things you already know, right? I think you've watched hundreds of YouTube videos. But what do you want to avoid? The first thing you want to avoid, my friend, is the universities which are heavily tied up with counselors, heavily tied up with consultants. It's almost as if they will not fill their classrooms unless they tie up with those Indian counselors, consultants, or people from China also do this. But at the end of the day, it's important to understand that these universities, no one wants to apply to them. Your counselor will tell you it's a great university. They might talk about Purdue University, but then the campus is Northwest, which is not a great campus at all. They might talk to you about Northeastern University, but then the campus is something complete. It's not the Boston campus at all. So the name of the university might be similar. It might show a good ranking, but as such, the university itself is very bad because the campus is new, or it just is a bad university. How do you identify these universities? And before we even talk about identifying them, what is wrong with these universities? Why should you not go for that? Well, one big reason to avoid these universities would be the fact that after you go to this university, you'll find out that hardly anyone who ever graduates from here ever gets a job. That's one important metric. People going to these universities are not able to secure jobs. They're not even able to secure visas because these universities are such badly ranked universities that the officer starts thinking, why are you even going to this university? You can get a better university even in your home country. So these things, students don't know about them, parents don't know about them, and they end up investing their life savings into this university, and this gets pocketed by these almost scammy schools, and you don't essentially get any return on investment. So how do you identify these universities? I think that's the biggest question out there. I'm sure you would want to avoid them. I want to avoid them. Now, I don't want to say that if you work with me, you won't get into these universities. I can tell you for sure. If you work with me, that won't be the case. But if you work with any counselor out there, 90% of the market is like this. Because counselors don't get paid by you directly. You will pay maybe a small amount. The university pays a big amount. That's why the counselors want to push you towards these universities. We get paid by you, or we get paid by the YouTube channel. So we don't really care as such. We are very happy to tell you the truth. To identify these universities, just do one thing. Go on to YMGrad.com, search for the university name that your counselor is recommending, and see the acceptance rate. Or just try to Google it out. Sometimes on Google also you'll find it. Take a look at this one. Wichita State University. A lot of international students go to this university and they get their visa rejected. They don't get jobs when they get to go there. So obviously the question is, why is this happening? I don't want to have any particular grudges or names that, okay, this university is bad, that university. But if you look at the acceptance rate, Wichita State is having 95% acceptance rate. 95%. That is insane. That simply means if 100 people apply to this university, only 5 people are rejected. And I would be surprised to see even if 95. I think it's even more. I think it's more than what they're advertising it. But if you think about it, it's almost like a Domino's. You go in, everyone's getting a pizza. So avoid these kinds of universities which have no character, which basically accept everyone. As long as you're paying, they're happy to have you in. That basically means there's no competition. And the second thing you need to look at is the location. Kansas, Missouri, all these kinds of locations which are sort of off the grid. There's almost no employment over there anyway. There's no companies essentially, whether you're going for tech, medicine, business, doesn't matter. You're going to have to move. That means you can't even go to nearby campuses and attend job fairs. Even if your university is not great, maybe a neighboring university is great, you can go to those campuses, get into the job fairs, get in front of employers, get your resume in there. Nothing is possible because there is no university nearby. You're basically in the middle of a forest. So check for the acceptance rates. They should not be too high. I would say even if it's more than 50%, it's a bad university. Let it be lower than 50% because at least, half the students applying should be rejected, right? University should be good enough. Check for the location. Over here, location matters more than anything and everything. And one very important thing, wherever you're going, like for instance, for the US, basically, check for the post-study work permit duration. So for the US, for instance, is the OPT. You get to work for 1 year only if it's non-STEM degree. If it's a STEM degree, then you get 3 years. If you don't know what I'm talking about, search for this on Google. You need to invest time into this. Don't apply to random universities. And I know even when I'm saying this, 90% of you guys, if you're going to a counselor, you're going to do it, but at least do this research. At least you don't get into this trap and your parents' money, your money doesn't go to waste. Similarly, there's PGWP durations, essentially postgraduate work permit durations. In Canada, there's, in the UK, you need to check essentially how many years can you work after this degree. And if it's not a lot, then you probably need to start rethinking of other universities. Can you imagine that certain students actually go to Canada, and these students are primarily from Punjab, but they go to Canada and they don't know that certain universities are just not eligible for the PGWP. So you can't work after your degree is finished simply because this university is not eligible, and these students still go. They don't know. They go ahead and then they find out. So after they've studied, the Canada tells them to go back home. They try to either stay legally or they try to shift somewhere else. But then they come back and their parents have sold their farms and they don't know what's going on. These kinds of issues, it's just sad to see. But please avoid such universities. These universities, these sponsors don't have your best interests at heart, and you need to do your research by yourself. I don't mean to say that everyone needs to work with me, but you need to know these things for yourself, right? And of course, if you're interested, you can reach out to me on WhatsApp, and you can sign up on YMGrad.com, and we'll keep you alerted against these bad universities which have bad visa success rates, so that at least you save your money, you save your time, and worst to worst case, you go over there and then you find out that's the worst case. So at least you save yourself from that situation. I hope this video helps, and thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.